Hi everyone. In this presentation, I would like to make your acquaintance with the topic probiotics in aquatic health management. So let's have a look at it. So I think all of you would be aware of what is aquaculture. So I'm not going to waste much time on explaining the aquaculture and all. So we'll go straight away to the topic. So aquatic animals maintain a close relationship with their external environment, which enhance the risk of diseases susceptibility. In short, it means like if they are allowed to grow in untreated, unhygienic water with a lot of pollutants, it's obvious that they would catch up with many diseases, or it makes them vulnerable to diseases. So yeah, it's as simple as that. The first point is as simple as that. You got to be in a pretty well managed system in order to be healthy. So then, high stocking density, water pollution, insecticides containing agriculture drainage water, and unscientific feeding enhance the risk of bacterial, fungal, and viral diseases in culture animals. Even they are prone to parasitic infections too. So these 2 points are interconnected. If you're growing in a poor quality water, poor quality of or untreated or unhygienic water, it's obvious that these culture animals would get infected. Most obvious reasons or obvious way of getting infected is to live in a such unhygienic condition. So now, so normally uh, to treat an infection, we use antibiotics. So the use of antibiotics in aquaculture as a preventive measure associated with the evolution and spread of several resistant human pathogens like Aeromonas species, Escherichia tada, Escherichia coli, Vibrio vulnificus, Vibrio parahemolyticus, Vibrio cholerae, and many more. So this is the problem of using antibiotics in aquaculture because they may result in the rise of multiple drug resistant microorganisms which may cause disease even in humans. So that's a problem of extensive use of antibiotics in aquaculture field. So that's where the application of probiotics comes. So we'll discuss about what is probiotic and how it works and all. So probiotics along with the dietary supplementation is a very fruitful strategy to combat pathogenic agents through a variety of mechanisms as an alternative driving force of antibiotic treatment. So probiotic has been considered as an alternative of antibiotic treatment, effective way of treating these infections or a preventive measure as a preventive measure. So there has been many definitions since the innovation of these probiotic microorganisms, but the most latest or the Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations or World Health Organization integrated all these definitions and stated that probiotics are live microorganisms which when administered in adequate amounts confer a health benefit on the host. So anything, any organism, microorganism which benefits the host when it is applied to that system, that's called probiotic. Probiotic also work through different mechanisms in aquaculture system to eliminate organic waste and pollutants. As we mentioned earlier, the main prospect or the aim of this probiotic application is to remove or to maintain the quality of this aquaculture system by eliminating the organic waste and other unwanted substances, chemicals, and pollutants from the system. So that's the prime aim of using probiotic instead of antibiotic. Then the source from where the probiotic microorganisms is obtained, and that varies greatly because we can find these microorganisms almost everywhere. And where do we get these probiotic microorganisms from? So there are certain sources of these microorganisms which are intended to be used as probiotic is the intestine of healthy fish, water of rearing environment, sediments of culture tanks, other animals, or fermented food products. And there are many other sources also there, but I've mentioned only a few. You can search it out and find more sources of these probiotic microorganisms. Then, potential candidates isolated from different sources are subjected to screening through multiple steps in order to assess their potential as ideal probiotics. Though there should be certain traits and characteristics for an ideal probiotic microorganisms. For that, these selected microorganisms from different sources are subjected to evaluation, screening. All these steps are necessary for that. So we'll consider those. What are the steps involved in selecting the probiotic microorganisms from the different sources? Mm. So, starting with isolation, that's the most important step in this in extracting or in identifying the probiotic microorganisms is like we must isolate the microorganisms from the source. So we get a lot of wide variety of microorganisms from a particular source. Now we have to assess them on certain criteria to be treated as a probiotic microorganism. Those are they should possess antagonistic activity, that is they are capable of inhibiting the other pathogens and other unwanted organisms from the system. That is the antagonistic property of organism. Then we must check the pathogenicity of these microorganisms, whether they are pathogenic to the animal that we in the aquaculture system. So then we go for the antibiotic resistance property. They must be resistant to certain antibiotics, and they have the capability to cope with the high bile salt concentration and to survive in wide range of pH. And these are the main traits or characters an ideal probiotic microorganism should possess. So after all these assessment, and those organisms who pass these assessments are being treated as potent probiotic organisms. So there are further steps to be or to use them as or to use them in a field, in aquaculture field. There are some steps more like the in vitro and in vivo evaluation, whether they are working in the laboratory conditions or whether they are working in the field or the environmental condition. So we must have some records of that, like uh, whether they're capable of delivering the proper objectives of being a potent probiotic microorganism. So for that we must do the in vitro and in vivo assessment or evaluation of this. Then we must also consider the economic evaluation aspect, whether they are cost effective, uh, that they are cultivable in the laboratory conditions with little money, or whether it's a practically feasible thing So we must take care or take account of that, whether it is economically feasible, and then go for the registration process to make it commercially available for the public for the field application. So these are the steps involved in the selection and marketing of probiotics. So now we will discuss about the beneficial effects of probiotic in aquaculture. Aquaculture organizations have now recommended the application of probiotics for the improvement of aquatic environmental quality by reducing the mortality or by increasing the resistance against putative pathogens of host. So we'll discuss the first effect that probiotic has on a system, aquaculture system, is maintenance of water quality. So probiotics help to improve water quality due to their ability to participate in the turnover of organic nutrients. This organic load is a problem in aquaculture system, where the organic load increases the biological oxygen demand, and which in turn reduces the dissolved oxygen content, apparently which affects the growth and survival of the animals, the culture animals. So what these probiotics do in aquaculture system is they're transforming the organic matter to carbon dioxide. So then they reduce the organic carbon load and enhance the water quality and fish health. And the second point is augmentation of growth and survival rate. Probiotic used to promote the growth of different cultivated species in aquaculture. The microorganisms are able to colonize within the gastrointestinal tract due to their higher multiplication rate than the rate of expulsion after the administration over a long period of time. So they should be administered and frequently to the system. So they have a high multiplication rate which tend them to colonize the gastrointestinal tract, and they will not allow the pathogens to colonize the gastrointestinal tract, hence they prevent them from infection. Then probiotics are added constantly to fish cultures to maintain the health by enhancing the expression of several immunological factors. They are capable of releasing some substances which are immunologically important, and they reduce the pathogen load to the gut mucus layer by occupying the physical space, play a vital role in nutrient enhancement in hosts. So normally the pathogens occupy the gastrointestinal tract or the mucus layer of gastrointestinal tract. So when we applying probiotic microorganisms to the aquaculture, they occupy the space in the gastrointestinal tract, which doesn't allow the pathogens to inhabit the same space because they lack the physical space to inhabit. So the pathogens doesn't have a space to act and to produce their pathogenicity or to infect them. These probiotic microorganisms doesn't allow the pathogen to occupy the space. So this also depends on factors such as water quality, hydrobiome species, enzyme levels, and genetic resistance. The probiotic microorganisms itself is allowing the fish or whatever the organisms we are culturing from being affected by the pathogens. So there are other factors such as water quality, as I mentioned, hydrobiome species, enzyme levels, and genetic resistance. It's also contributing for preventing themselves from the infections. So the next is the improvement in nutrient utilization. I mean, it's quite similar to the second factor, like improving the conditions. How it improves the nutrient utilization. As I mentioned earlier, these probiotic microorganisms inhabit the gastrointestinal tract, where they uh, helps in the digestion of dietary nutrient as well as in the production of energy. So increased nutrient digestibility are due to the elevated level of digestive enzyme. That means these probiotic organisms are capable of producing these digestive enzymes extensively, so that improves the digestion. So nutrient intake, everything just improves their health. So that's how. And it just colonized the gastrointestinal tract and then alter the gut associated microbial community in the host. That's a beneficial change. And the probiotic may also stimulate the nutrient absorption by increasing the surface area of the gastrointestinal tract. Also, probiotic organisms are capable of increasing the surface area by inhabiting the space. Then different bacterial strains in the form of probiotics also contribute significantly by modulating gut microbial population of the host organisms, especially by synthesizing fatty acid, minerals, vitamins, and essential amino acids. So they are capable of producing all these essential amino acids and vitamins, minerals, everything that is essential for a healthy animal to live. Or that these all factors are important for their survival and their multiplication and their metabolism, everything. So these probiotic microorganisms provide all these necessary aspects of life. Then the fourth one is effects on phytoplankton. Probiotic bacteria play a vital role in controlling algal growth, particularly of red-tide plankton, as they are antagonistic to it, algae, where undesired algal species are developed in the culture pond. So what happens when there is algal bloom? That we all know that, like as I said, in the case of organic load in a system, that should increase the biological oxygen demand, reduce the dissolved oxygen. That same happens in when there is high growth of phytoplankton, or the unwanted phytoplanktons would lead to this biological oxygen demand and reduced dissolved oxygen level, which in turn affects the fish growth. So that's not recommendable. So these probiotic bacteria play a vital role in controlling this unwanted algal growth. So let's go for the other, the fifth one, the bacteriostatic effect of probiotics. So this is one of the most important application of probiotic microorganisms, where these bacterial population, these probiotic bacterial populations may release a variety of chemical substances that have a bactericidal or bacteriostatic effect. Either they can kill or arrest the growth of gram positive and gram negative bacteria. These inhibitory substances play an important role in pathogen inhibition and proliferation, and thereby reduce the pathogen load. So it can effectively control the bacterial, fungal, and viral pathogens, even the parasites. And let's move on to the fifth benefit, that is stimulation of decolonization of pathogenic bacteria. One possible mechanism for preventing colonization by pathogen is physical competition of attachment, which we mentioned earlier, that in the gastrointestinal tract where these probiotic microorganisms occupy, so these pathogens have to compete for the space and this effectively eliminate or control the pathogens from being occupying the space. So since bacterial adhesion to tissue surface is important. Actually, each pathogen to act on the host, they need some space or they need some place or tissue surface to attach to. So these probiotic microorganisms prevent this pathogen from adhesion and attachment to the gastrointestinal tract. And there is a competition for adhesion receptors with pathogens might be the first probiotic effect. So probiotic microorganisms possess mucus binding proteins which help in the acceleration of binding process. And the quorum sensing, I don't know how many of you heard of quorum sensing. This is a microbiology term, quorum sensing, which is used by the microorganisms to communicate with other microorganisms. So it's a way of communication. So they release certain chemicals or substance which in turn attract or repels the microorganisms. So quorum quenching is disruption of this quorum sensing. So they are not allowing to communicate with the other microorganisms. So what these probiotic microorganisms do is they are quorum quenchers. I mean, these probiotic microorganisms are capable of blocking the quorum sensing. So as probiotic microorganisms, these quorum quenching microorganisms are selected as probiotic microorganisms because their application as a quorum sensing inhibitors is quite efficient in controlling the pathogens. So then the sixth one is the augmentation in the immune system. So they improve the immunity of fish or the cultured animal by these probiotic microorganism release certain immunostimulatory substances, and they protect the aquatic cultured species by reducing the impact of diseases and entrance of pathogens. I mean, these all benefits are interconnected. Then the last one, effects on reproduction. It is well documented that probiotic influence reproduction in different factors like fertilization, gonad-somatic index, fecundity, and the production of fry from the females. Actually, every aspect of life is being has been influenced by the probiotic microorganisms. So is the case in the reproduction also. It enhances the reproduction and multiplication, egg bearing, and everything. Every aspect of reproduction is being improved. So I hope you understood the topic and the beneficial effects of probiotics and why it is being widely used instead of antibiotics. What are the features, how it is selected and how it is screened and how it is registered and commercially make it commercially available to the public. Okay, I think everyone is well aware of the topic right now. Thank you.